Imani, an exceptionally intelligent 8-year-old, faces daily microaggressions and bullying at her elementary school in suburban Atlanta, where she is one of the few Black students. She retreats into silence, a behavior her mother, Dr. Imani Washington, a medical researcher, and secretly, a Secret Service unit leader, attributes to the loneliness of being gifted. Imani's only ally is her teacher, Miss Torres. The school's resource officer, Blake Mason, a former police officer with a history of excessive force complaints, targets minority students. Imani tries to be invisible to avoid his notice. This changes when a white student, Tyler, destroys Imani's special notebook. Officer Mason accuses Imani of causing trouble, and when Miss Torres intervenes, he dismisses the incident without addressing Tyler. After this, Mason begins to harass Imani, telling her that quiet kids are usually hiding something. Imani asks her mother to change schools, but can't explain why, and Elise tells her to stand her ground. On October 12th, Tyler claims his electronic tablet is stolen and blames Imani. The teacher, Mrs. Fleming, and Principal Whitaker immediately assume Imani is guilty. Ms. Torres tries to intervene, but Officer Mason is called in. He corners Imani in the hallway, where her silence infuriates him. He slams her against the lockers and kicks her, causing a nosebleed, bruised ribs, and a concussion. Ms. Torres witnesses the assault and calls Dr. Washington, secretly recording the entire incident on her phone. Meanwhile, Principal Whitaker and other teachers dismiss the assault as a necessary restraint. At a high-level security briefing, Dr. Washington receives the call from Ms. Torres. She listens with controlled fury and immediately leaves with her team of federal agents. As she drives to the school, memories of her own childhood experiences with racism flood back, and she resolves to fight for justice for her daughter. The arrival of Dr. Washington and her federal team creates a stir at the school. Principal Whitaker, flustered, tries to handle the situation privately, but Elise demands to see her daughter first. The sight of Imani's injuries and her expression of fear and shame deeply affect Elise. Just as Principal Whitaker tries to downplay the incident, Ms. Torres steps forward and plays the video of Mason assaulting Imani. The police chief and school superintendent arrive, and Dr. Washington reveals her true identity as a director in the Secret Service, explaining that Mason's behavior fits a profile of a potential threat. The administrators and Officer Mason realize the seriousness of the situation. Dr. Washington refuses a private settlement, demanding accountability not just for her daughter, but for all the children Mason has targeted. Ms. Torres reveals that complaints against Mason have been routinely ignored. The investigation quickly escalates to the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. An agent discovers that 27 complaints have been filed against Mason in the last 3 years, mostly from minority parents, all of which were resolved without disciplinary action. Ms. Torres presents more evidence she's been gathering for years, showing a clear pattern of discriminatory discipline. The allegedly stolen tablet is found, revealing that the theft report was fabricated. Faced with mounting evidence, the school and police attempt to contain the scandal, but Dr. Washington remains firm, declaring that this incident will not be buried. The incident quickly gains national attention. The police union defends Mason, framing him as a dedicated officer, while the school district's legal team prepares a statement. Meanwhile, Dr. Washington learns that the tablet report was a fabrication and that her daughter was targeted in a calculated, systemic way. Imani, still traumatized, has a nightmare and begs her mother not to send her back to school. Elise faces professional pressure from her director, who warns her against using federal resources for a personal matter. At school, other minority parents organize a group called Justice for Imani. Officer Mason is told to delete his social media and lay low. Ms. Torres is summoned to a disciplinary hearing, but secretly meets with Dr. Washington, providing her with 2 years of documented incidents involving Mason. Elise receives a threatening call from Police Chief Roberts, who suggests her career could be complicated by her aggressive pursuit of the case. She tells him she is not backing down. Imani begins to express herself through art, drawing a picture of a small black block standing tall, surrounded by a protective circle of diverse children. Her therapist notes that this creative outlet is an important part of her healing journey. Dr. Washington continues to receive tips from other parents and from Agent Rivera, who reveals that Mason has a history of quietly being shuffled to new districts after similar excessive force incidents. Dr. Washington knows the battle lines have been drawn and the fight is far from over. 2 weeks after the incident, a news channel airs an edited video of the assault. The manipulated footage makes it look like Imani was aggressive and that Officer Mason was simply restraining her. This new narrative quickly gains traction online. Simultaneously, 3 teachers who initially supported Ms. Torres recant their statements, and Ms. Torres herself is fired for violating policy. Dr. Washington is also placed on administrative leave, and her security clearance is temporarily suspended. The police release an internal investigation report that clears Mason of any wrongdoing, and the school district backs their findings. Mason holds a press conference with his family, tearfully claiming to have been vilified. Public opinion begins to turn against Imani. Dr. Washington is increasingly isolated as her colleagues and many of the parents who had supported her now fear retaliation. Despairing but not defeated, Elise receives an anonymous text message telling her to check her email. The email gives her an anonymous tip about a secret server in the school district's basement that holds the original, unaltered security footage. Dr. Washington, with the help of her loyal colleague Agent Daniels, uses the anonymous tip to get a federal warrant. At dawn, a team of federal agents raids the school district's administration building. They find the unaltered security footage of Imani's assault, which confirms Mason's brutality and disproves the edited versions shown on the news. They also discover damning emails between Principal Whitaker, Superintendent Jenkins, and Police Chief Roberts, detailing their conspiracy to obstruct justice and tamper with evidence. Meanwhile, Imani finds her own voice. During a school assembly, she gives a powerful viral speech, declaring that her silence didn't protect her and that she deserves to be safe at school. Her courage inspires Ms. Torres, who, despite being fired, organizes a teacher walkout in solidarity. The federal investigation expands to include charges of obstruction of justice and conspiracy. Dr. Washington begins to leak the original, unedited footage to trusted media contacts. An unexpected ally emerges from the school board, providing Dr. Washington with internal memos showing a long history of buried discrimination complaints. As more victims of Officer Mason come forward and forensic analysis proves the video was doctored, the tide turns back in favor of Imani. The police union begins to distance itself from Mason, and Dr. Washington, despite personal and professional attacks, holds firm in her fight for justice. As the case against Officer Mason and the corrupt officials gains momentum, the last pieces of the conspiracy fall into place. Federal investigators find that Police Chief Roberts and Superintendent Jenkins personally ordered the destruction of evidence. The police union, sensing a lost cause, withdraws its support for Mason. A technical analysis of the fake video confirms it was manipulated with sophisticated software, proving a coordinated effort. Imani channeled her experiences into art. Her drawing of a small girl standing up to a uniformed figure becomes a symbol of the movement, shared widely online. The caption she writes, "Our silence will not protect us. Our voices will change the world," resonates with many. The system that nearly crushed them is finally forced to face the truth. When Imani asked her mother why they fought so hard to protect someone who hurt a child, Elise explains that systems protect themselves and that change only happens when brave people refuse to be silent. The fight they have undertaken is not just about one person, it's about changing a system. 6 months after the assault, federal indictments are handed down, and early warning raids lead to the arrests of Officer Mason, Principal Whitaker, Superintendent Jenkins, and Police Chief Roberts. They face charges of civil rights violations, obstruction of justice, and evidence tampering. Mason, who attempts to flee, is dramatically apprehended. Imani and her mother watch the arrests on the news. Imani asks if it's over now, and Elise reassures her that the hardest part is, and that their next step is to ensure this never happens to another child. The school district implements the Imani Washington Protocol, a new policy that requires body cameras for school resource officers, prohibits physical interventions unless absolutely necessary, and mandates reviews for racial disparities in discipline. Ms. Torres is reinstated and put in charge of a new equity initiative. She credits Imani and Elisa's courage for turning a moment of injustice into a movement for change. Imani herself is transformed. The quiet girl who once tried to be invisible now walks the halls with confidence. She gives a powerful speech at a school assembly declaring that her silence was not her failure, but the failure of a system that protected a person who hurt her. She tells her peers that they deserve better and that her voice is her power. The investigation into the tablet incident reveals that Tyler Matthews' father, the school board president, coached his son to fabricate the story to get back at Dr. Washington. This leads to additional charges against him for child endangerment and conspiracy. Officer Mason quickly convicts on all counts and sentenced to 8 years in prison. The other defendants accept plea deals, receiving professional disbarment and financial penalties. Dr. Washington declines a promotion, instead choosing to establish the Children's Dignity Foundation, which provides legal support to minority children facing discriminatory discipline in schools. Imani plays an active role in the foundation, helping other children find their voices. At her school, Imani starts a student group called Safe Spaces for students to report discrimination. She addresses the student body again on the 1-year anniversary of the assault, declaring that she is a change maker and that her voice is her power. The story concludes with Imani and her mother walking through the school halls, which are now adorned with artwork celebrating diversity and courage. When Elise asks Imani if she's ready for what's next, Imani simply replies, "I'm not afraid anymore," signaling her complete transformation from a silenced victim to a powerful advocate for change.